She was barefoot, starving, 7 years old with nowhere to go. Lily Mason had been invisible her whole life, a homeless ghost that no one wanted to see. But when she stumbled upon 2 police officers drowning in their own blood bullets in their chests, snow turning red beneath them, she faced a choice no child should ever make. Run and survive. Stay and die with strangers. What Lily did in the next 60 seconds would ignite a manhunt, expose a killer inside the police department, and prove that sometimes the smallest hearts carry the fiercest courage. This is her story. Before we begin, comment where you're watching from. Subscribe and stay until the very end. You won't forget this. The blizzard had been screaming for 3 days straight. Lily Mason pressed her small body against the cracked window of the abandoned school bus, watching the white fury swallow everything outside. Her breath fogged the glass. Her stomach cramped with a hunger so deep it had stopped hurting 2 days ago. Now it just felt hollow, like someone had scooped out her insides and left nothing but cold air. Ranger lay beside her, his graying muzzle resting on her knee. The old German shepherd's breathing was slow and steady, but Lily could feel his ribs through his fur. He was hungry too. They were both starving. Behind them, on a pile of moth-eaten blankets, her mother Carol lay motionless. Empty bottles surrounded her like a glass fortress. She hadn't moved in 18 hours, hadn't spoken in 2 days. The last thing she'd said to Lily was, "Stop looking at me like that." Lily wasn't looking at her anymore. "Ranger," she whispered, her voice cracking. "We gotta find food." The dog lifted his head. His dark eyes, still sharp despite his 9 years, met hers with understanding. He knew. He always knew. Lily pulled on her jacket 3 sizes too big, held together with safety pins and prayers. She wrapped a torn scarf around her neck. Her shoes had holes in both soles stuffed with newspaper that had long since turned to mush. "I'll be back, Mama," she said to the unconscious woman. No response. There never was. She pushed open the bus door. The wind hit her like a fist, stealing her breath, burning her cheeks. Ranger pressed against her leg, steadying her. "The dumpster's behind Murphy's grocery," Lily said more to herself than the dog. "Sometimes they throw out the good bread on Thursdays." She didn't know if today was Thursday. She'd stopped tracking days weeks ago. They walked into the white nothing. The shortcut through the woods was treacherous in the blizzard. Lily had walked this path 100 times, knew every fallen log and frozen stream. But today, the familiar landmarks had disappeared under 3 feet of snow. She followed Ranger, trusting his instincts more than her own. 20 minutes into the forest, Ranger stopped. His entire body went rigid. Ears pricked forward. The fur along his spine rose in a sharp ridge. "What is it, boy?" Ranger didn't move. His eyes fixed on something ahead through the curtain of falling snow, something Lily couldn't see. Then she heard it. A crack. Sharp. Loud. Echoing off the frozen trees. Then another. Lily knew that sound. She'd heard it in the trailer parks in the bad neighborhoods, in the places her mother dragged her when the shelters were full. That was a gun. 2 gunshots. Ranger, no. But the dog was already running. Lily had never seen Ranger move that fast, not since the night she'd found him bleeding by the railroad tracks 2 years ago. His old injury, the bullet wound in his hip that had ended his career as a police dog, seemed forgotten. He bounded through the snow with purpose, with training, with something that looked almost like recognition. She chased him. Her lungs burned. Her feet, numb from the cold, caught on buried roots and hidden rocks. She fell twice, 3 times, scrambling up each time, terrified of losing sight of him in the white. "Ranger, wait." She burst through a line of pine trees and stopped dead. Old Mill Road. She knew this road. It curved around the mountain toward town, usually empty this time of year. But it wasn't empty now. A police cruiser sat crumpled against a snowbank, its front end, buried windshield, shattered into a spiderweb of cracks. The driver's door hung open, the lights weren't flashing, the engine wasn't running, and in the snow, 2 shapes lay motionless. Blue uniforms, dark stains spreading beneath them, steam rising from their bodies into the frigid air. Lily's heart stopped. Ranger reached them first. He circled the nearest body, a large man with gray hair, and let out a sound Lily had never heard from him. A high, keening whine, a sound of distress, a sound of recognition. "No, no, no, no!" Lily approached on shaking legs. Every instinct screamed at her to run. Her mother's voice echoed in her head. "Stay away from cops, Lily. They'll take you away. They'll put you in a home. They're not your friends." But these cops weren't going to take anyone anywhere. The older man lay face down in the snow. His uniform jacket was torn. Blood, so much blood, pooled beneath him, melting the snow into crimson slush. His back rose and fell in shallow, stuttering breaths. He was alive. Barely. The second officer was a woman, younger, with dark hair escaping from beneath her hat. She was slumped against the cruiser's tire, eyes closed, one hand pressed against her shoulder. Blood seeped between her fingers. Ranger stood between them, looking at Lily with desperate eyes. "What do I do?" Lily whispered. "What do I do?" She was 7 years old. She was starving. She was homeless. She had nothing. She had nothing, except a choice. She could run, disappear into the blizzard. No one would ever know she was here. No one would ever find her. She could survive the way she'd always survived, by being invisible. Or she could stay. Her grandmother's voice came to her then, floating up from memories she kept locked away because they hurt too much. Grammy Ruth, who had died holding Lily's hand, who had been the only person in Lily's life who ever made her feel safe. The measure of a person, baby girl, is what they do when nobody's watching. Lily looked at the dying officers, at Ranger, who had once been a police dog, who had spent his life protecting people, who was looking at her now like he believed she could do something. She ran to the cruiser. The inside was chaos. Papers scattered everywhere. A coffee cup spilled across the dashboard. The radio crackled with static and broken voices. Lily grabbed the handset. She'd seen people use radios in movies. You pressed the button and talked. Her finger found the button. "Hello." Her voice came out as a squeak. She tried again. "Hello, please someone, there are police officers hurt. They're bleeding really bad. They're on Old Mill Road, near the big dead tree. Please send help." Static. Then a voice, sharp and alert. "This is dispatch. Who is this? Can you repeat your location? Old Mill Road by the dead tree. There's 2 of them and they're not moving and there's so much blood and please hurry. Help is on the way. Stay on the line. Can you tell me your name?" Lily dropped the radio. She couldn't stay on the line. She couldn't give her name. If they found out who she was, if they found out about her mother, about the bus, about how she'd been living, they would take her away, put her in a home, separate her from Ranger. But she couldn't leave them. She crawled out of the cruiser and knelt beside the woman officer. Up close, Lily could see she was young. Maybe the same age as the lady who worked at the grocery store, the one who sometimes slipped Lily a granola bar when no one was looking. "Ma'am?" Lily's voice shook. "Ma'am, can you hear me?" The woman's eyes fluttered, opened a crack. Unfocused, swimming with pain. "Hey." The word was barely a breath. "Hey, kid. Help is coming. I called on the radio. Help is coming." The woman's hand moved, reaching for something. Her pocket. With trembling, blood-slicked fingers, she pulled out a photograph. A small boy, maybe 3 years old, grinning at the camera. "My son," she whispered. Tell him, Mama." "No." Lily grabbed the woman's hand, the one not pressed against the wound. "You're gonna tell him yourself. You gotta stay awake. You gotta keep fighting." The woman's eyes focused on Lily for the first time. Really looked at her. Saw the tangled hair, the hollow cheeks, the jacket held together with safety pins. You're just a baby." "I'm 7, Lily said, because it felt important. "And I'm strong. My Grammy said I'm the strongest person she ever knew." A ghost of a smile crossed the woman's pale lips. What's your name?" Lily hesitated. "Don't tell anyone your name. Don't let anyone know who you are. Stay invisible." But this woman was dying, and she was looking at Lily like she mattered. "Lily, my name is Lily." "Lily," the woman squeezed her hand weakly. "I'm Elena. That's That's Marcus over there. He's my partner. Is he... Check on him, please. Lily didn't want to let go of Elena's hand, but she did. She crawled through the snow to the older officer. Marcus. He was bigger up close with a face that looked like it had been carved from stone. But his eyes were closed and his skin was the color of old paper. Ranger lay beside him, pressed against his side, sharing body heat. The dog looked up at Lily with knowing eyes. He's breathing, Lily said, but he's really cold. She looked around frantically. In the cruiser, she'd seen blankets, emergency supplies. She ran back, grabbed a heavy wool blanket from the back seat, dragged it through the snow. She couldn't lift Marcus. He was way too big, but she could cover him. She spread the blanket over his body, tucked it around his shoulders, made sure Ranger stayed close. You gotta keep him warm, boy, she told the dog. Like you keep me warm. Okay? Ranger huffed softly and pressed closer to the unconscious man. Lily went back to Elena. He's covered. Ranger's keeping him warm. Ranger. My dog. He used to be a police dog, I think, before someone shot him and left him by the train tracks. Elena's eyes widened slightly. A K9. I found him 2 years ago. He was bleeding, and nobody would help, so I helped. I stayed with him all night. He's been with me ever since. Something changed in Elena's expression, pain mixed with wonder. You saved him. He saved me, Lily's voice cracked. He's my best friend. He's my only friend. Sirens. Distant but growing closer. The wail cut through the howling wind, bounced off the frozen trees. Lily's heart lurched. They're coming, she said. Help is coming. But help also meant questions. Help meant social workers and police and people who would look at her and see a neglected child. People who would find her mother passed out in that bus, surrounded by empty bottles. People who would take her away from Ranger. Lily. Elena's voice was urgent despite its weakness. Don't run. I have to. No, listen to me. Elena gripped her hand with surprising strength. Whatever you're running from, whatever you're scared of, you're brave. The bravest person I've ever met. Don't let anyone make you feel like you're not worth saving. Tears burned Lily's eyes. She blinked them back furiously. I'm not brave. I'm just scared. That's what brave is. Elena's eyes were closing, consciousness slipping away. Being scared, and doing it anyway. Her hand went limp in Lily's. Elena. But the woman had slipped under, still breathing but gone somewhere Lily couldn't follow. The sirens were closer now. Lily could see flashing lights through the curtain of snow. She had to go. Ranger! The dog looked up from Marcus's side. Come on, boy. We gotta go. Ranger whined, looking between Lily and the unconscious officer. He'll be okay. Help is here. But we gotta go now. The dog hesitated one more moment, then bounded to her side. Lily took one last look at Elena's still face, at the photograph of the little boy still clutched in her bloody fingers. I hope you get to tell him, she whispered. I hope you get to tell him yourself. Then she ran. She dove into the trees just as the first emergency vehicle crested the hill. She heard shouts, doors slamming, voices calling out orders. She heard someone say, "They're alive. Get the medics." They were alive. She had done something that mattered. Lily ran until her lungs screamed and her legs gave out. She collapsed against a fallen tree, Ranger pressing against her, both of them gasping in the frozen air. And for the first time in months, she cried. Sheriff Nathaniel Cole had seen a lot in his 48 years. 22 of those years spent in law enforcement, the last 15 leading Pinewood Ridge's small department. He'd seen car accidents that turned his stomach, domestic disputes that broke his heart, the occasional meth lab explosion that reminded him why he'd never wanted to work in a big city. But he'd never seen anything like this. 2 of his best officers ambushed on a routine patrol, left to die in a blizzard. He stood beside the crashed cruiser watching the paramedics work. Marcus Webb, his old mentor, the man who'd trained him when he was just a green recruit, was being loaded onto a stretcher. The older officer's face was gray, oxygen mask fogging with each shallow breath. Elena Reyes, his newest transfer, was already in the ambulance. The paramedics said she'd lost a lot of blood but was stable. She'd been conscious briefly, they said, talking to someone, but there was no one else at the scene. Sheriff, he turned. Deputy Darrell Boone approached big man hunched against the wind-faced grave beneath his frost-covered beard. What did you find? Darrell held up an evidence bag. Inside was a small piece of paper blood-stained, creased with handling. Found this clutched in Officer Reyes's hand. A photograph. Little boy, maybe 2 or 3 years old. That's her son, Miguel. Yes, sir. But there's something else. Darrell pointed toward the tree line. Boot prints, small ones, and paw prints beside them. Cole's eyes narrowed. He walked to where Darrell indicated. The snow was churned up here, marked by passage, and there, clear as day, despite the falling snow, were tracks. Small boot prints, child-sized, and beside them, the unmistakable prints of a large dog. Someone was here, Cole said slowly. Someone found them before we did. The radio call, Darrell said. Dispatch said it was a child's voice, a little girl. She called in the location, then dropped the radio. Cole crouched, studying the tracks. They led away from the scene into the dense trees toward the rougher part of town. The area near the railroad tracks where the abandoned buildings were, where the people who'd fallen through society's cracks tried to survive. She saved them, he murmured. This child, whoever she is, she saved 2 of my officers. Should I organize a search? Find her? Cole was quiet for a long moment. The tracks were already filling with new snow. In an hour, they'd be gone completely. Whoever this child was, she didn't want to be found. But she needed to be found. Not for questioning, not for interrogation, because whoever attacked his officers was still out there. And if this child had seen something, if she could identify anything about the attacker, she was in danger. Put out the word, Cole said, standing, but carefully, compassionate. We're not hunting this child. We're trying to help her. She's a witness and a hero. Make sure everyone understands that. Yes, sir. Cole looked once more at the small footprints rapidly disappearing beneath fresh snow. Who are you? He whispered to the storm. And what did you see? 15 miles away in an old warehouse on the outskirts of town, a phone rang. Victor Stain answered on the second ring. He was a patient man, methodical, the kind of person who planned every move 3 steps ahead. 55 years old, with a face that had been weathered by decades of hard living and harder choices. His eyes were the color of dirty ice. It's done. His voice was flat, emotionless. We hit them, said the voice on the other end. Both officers are down. Down or dead. A pause. We had to leave before we could confirm. The storm. I didn't ask about the weather. Stain's voice dropped to a whisper, somehow more threatening than shouting. I asked if they're dead. They should be. The older one took 3 rounds to the chest. The woman took 1 to the shoulder and 1 grazed her head. In this storm, even if they survived initially hypothermia, assumptions. Stain cut him off. I don't pay you for assumptions. The line crackled with uncomfortable silence. There's something else, the voice said finally. Something you should know. What? Our inside man, Harrison. He says someone called dispatch. Called in the officer's location. They're sending rescue. Stain went very still. Who called? That's the thing. It was a kid. A little girl, according to the dispatcher. Called from the officer's cruiser radio. A child. A witness. Stain's jaw tightened. This was unexpected. Unwelcome. A variable he hadn't accounted for. Find her, he said. Sir. Are you deaf? I said find her. Use Harrison. He's still inside. He can access patrol routes, search teams, whatever resources they're using to locate this child. And when you find her... Understood. Make sure you do. Because if this operation falls apart because of some random child in the woods, you'll be joining those officers in the ground. Do we understand each other? Yes, sir. Completely. Stain ended the call. He stood in the warehouse darkness, surrounded by crates marked with false shipping labels, crates filled with stolen medical equipment worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. A child. In his experience, children were either invisible or catastrophically disruptive. There was no middle ground. This one, whoever she was, had already proven she wasn't invisible. He picked up the phone again and dialed a different number. "Wade, I need everything you can find about a child who was in the woods near Old Mill Road today. A little girl with a dog. Find her before your colleagues do. And Wade, this stays between us. If your sheriff finds out you're working both sides." "I know." Deputy Wade Harrison's voice was tight with fear. "I'll find her. I'll handle it." "See that you do." Stain hung up and looked out the warehouse window at the swirling snow. Somewhere out there, a 7-year-old girl had seen something she shouldn't have seen. And in Victor Stain's world, witnesses didn't live long enough to testify. The bus was colder than before. Lily pushed through the door, Ranger at her heels, both of them coated in snow and shaking with exhaustion. Her mother hadn't moved. The bottles hadn't moved. Nothing had changed. Nothing ever changed. Lily peeled off her wet jacket and wrapped herself in every blanket she could find. She pulled Ranger close, pressing her face into his fur, letting his warmth seep into her frozen bones. "We did something today, boy," she whispered. "We helped someone." Ranger's tail thumped weakly against the floor. Elena, that was her name, and Marcus. They were hurt so bad, but they're gonna be okay. Help came. I heard them say they were alive. The dog licked her cheek. "You ran to them. Before I even knew what was happening, you ran to help them. Like you used to do, right? Before someone hurt you. Before everyone forgot about you." She pulled back to look into his dark, knowing eyes. "Nobody forgot about you, though. I didn't forget, and I won't. No matter what." Outside, the storm continued to rage. But inside the rusted bus, a 7-year-old girl and her wounded dog huddled together, survivors in a world that had done its best to destroy them. Lily didn't know that by tomorrow, her name would be whispered throughout Pinewood Ridge. She didn't know that powerful men were already hunting for her. She didn't know that the officers she'd saved would spend every waking moment trying to find her. She only knew that today, for the first time in her life, she had mattered. And that feeling warm and strange and terrifying was worth more than any food she'd ever scavenged, any shelter she'd ever found, any kindness she'd ever been shown. She had mattered. And somehow, despite everything that made tomorrow feel possible. Ranger pressed closer, his heartbeat steady against her ribs. Outside, the world was cold and dangerous and full of people who wanted to hurt them. But in here, in this moment, they were together. And for Lily Mason, that had always been enough. It would have to be enough. Because the storm was just beginning. The hospital corridor smelled like bleach and fear. Sheriff Nathaniel Cole stood outside the intensive care unit, watching through the window as doctors worked over Marcus Webb's motionless body. Machines beeped, tubes ran everywhere. The man who had taught Cole everything about being a cop looked small and broken under those harsh lights. 28 years on the force. 28 years of putting his life on the line. And now Marcus might die because someone wanted him silenced. "Sheriff." Cole turned. Dr. Patterson approached, clipboard in hand, face grave. "How has he come? Critical. 3 gunshot wounds to the torso. 1 nicked his liver, another collapsed his left lung. He lost nearly 40% of his blood volume before the paramedics reached him." The doctor paused. Honestly, he should be dead. The fact that he was covered with a blanket, that something was keeping him warm, it bought him time. Probably saved his life. Cole thought of the small footprints in the snow. The child who had called for help then vanished. And Officer Reyes, she's stable. Shoulder wound was through and through. The head graze looks worse than it is. She's been drifting in and out asking for someone. Who? A girl. Keeps saying, "Find the girl," before she falls back under. Cole's jaw tightened. "Let me know the moment she's coherent." He walked away from the ICU, mind racing. Two officers ambushed on a routine patrol. A child witness who disappeared into the storm. Someone had known exactly where Marcus and Elena would be, exactly when they would be there. That meant someone inside his department had betrayed them. The thought made his stomach turn. His phone buzzed. Deputy Darrell Boone. "What do you have?" "Sheriff, I pulled the dispatch logs like you asked. That patrol route. It was changed last minute. Originally, Marcus and Elena were supposed to take the highway loop, but someone amended the schedule and sent them to Old Mill Road instead." "Who made the change?" A pause. "The system shows it was logged from Deputy Harrison's terminal, but he says he didn't do it. Claims someone must have used his credentials. Wade Harrison, 12 years on the force. Quiet, reliable, never caused problems. Never stood out either. Where is Harrison now? Called in sick this morning, said he's got the flu." Cole's instincts flared. "Find him. I want eyes on him until I say otherwise." "Yes, sir." He ended the call and stood alone in the hospital corridor, the weight of betrayal pressing down on his shoulders. Someone in his department had tried to murder two of his officers, and that someone was still out there. Back at the station, Deputy Wade Harrison sat at his desk pretending to work. His hands wouldn't stop shaking. The burner phone in his pocket felt like a bomb, heavy and dangerous, ready to destroy everything he'd built. Stain had called twice already, demanding updates, demanding results. Find the girl. Silence her. Make it clean. Wade had spent 12 years being invisible, doing his job, keeping his head down. When Stain's people had first approached him 3 years ago, it had seemed simple. Look the other way occasionally, lose some paperwork, feed them patrol schedules so they could move their cargo without interference. Easy money. No one got hurt. But now 2 officers were fighting for their lives, and a child had seen something she shouldn't have, and Wade was in so deep he couldn't see the surface anymore. "Hey, Harrison." He nearly jumped out of his skin. Officer Haley Knox stood beside his desk, auburn hair pulled back, blue-green eyes sharp with suspicion. "You okay?" "You look terrible." "Flu," Wade managed. "Coming down with something." "Then why are you here?" "Couldn't stay home, not with Marcus and Elena." He let the sentence trail off, hoping it sounded like concern rather than guilt. Haley studied him for a long moment. Something flickered in her expression. Doubt, suspicion. "I've been going through the security footage," she said slowly. "From the station, the night before the ambush." Wade's blood turned to ice. "Yeah, weird thing. The records room camera glitched for about 20 minutes around midnight. No footage at all during that window. Probably the storm. Electronics get funny in bad weather." "Maybe." Haley didn't look away. "Or maybe someone didn't want their late-night visit recorded." Wade forced himself to meet her gaze. "What are you saying, Knox?" "I'm not saying anything. Yet." She straightened. "Feel better, Harrison? You really do look sick." She walked away. Wade watched her go, his heart hammering against his ribs. She knew. Maybe not everything, but she suspected. He was running out of time. Across town in the rusted school bus, Lily woke to Ranger's growl. Low, deep warning. She sat up instantly, every survival instinct screaming. Outside, footsteps crunched in the snow. Heavy, deliberate, coming closer. "Shh, boy," she whispered, hand on Ranger's neck. "Quiet." The footsteps stopped right outside the bus door. Lily held her breath. A knock. 3 sharp raps against the metal. "Hello, anyone in there?" A man's voice, official sounding. Lily's mother stirred on her pile of blankets, groaning. "What? What's happening?" "Mama, be quiet," Lily hissed. "Someone's outside." Carol's eyes focused with rare clarity. Fear cut through the alcohol haze. "Police? I don't know." Another knock, harder this time. "This is Deputy Wade Harrison, Pinewood Ridge Police. I know someone's in there. I just want to talk." Lily's heart stopped. Police. They'd found her. They'd come to take her away just like her mother always warned. But something about this felt wrong. Ranger was still growling hackles, raised teeth bared. In 2 years, Lily had never seen him react this way to anyone in uniform. When they passed cops on the street, Ranger always perked up, tail wagging like he remembered being one of them. He wasn't wagging now. "Lily!" Carol grabbed her arm nails, digging in. "The back. The emergency exit. Go." "But Mama..." "Now, baby, take the dog and go. I'll handle this." For one moment, despite everything, despite the drinking and the neglect and the thousand small abandonments, Carol Mason looked like a mother protecting her child. "Go," she said again. "Run and don't look back." Lily grabbed her jacket and her shoes. She clicked her tongue softly at Ranger. The front door of the bus burst open. Wade Harrison stood in the doorway, snow swirling behind him, hand on his holstered weapon. Nobody move. But Lily was already moving. She threw open the emergency exit at the back of the bus and tumbled into the snow, Ranger launching after her. "Hey, stop." She didn't stop. She ran like she'd never run before, Ranger matching her stride for stride. Behind her she heard shouting, her mother's voice raised and angry, the deputy's response sharp and threatening. She didn't look back. The woods swallowed her whole. Wade Harrison stood in the doorway of the filthy bus, staring at the woman on the blankets. She was younger than he expected, mid-30s maybe, though hard living had carved decades into her face. Empty bottles surrounded her. The smell of alcohol and unwashed bodies was overwhelming. "Where did she go?" Wade demanded. The woman laughed, bitter and broken. "You think I'd tell you? Listen to me very carefully." Wade stepped closer. "I'm trying to help that child. She's in danger. People are looking for her. Bad people. And you're one of them." The woman's eyes, bleary but defiant, held his gaze. "I've known men like you my whole life. Predators in uniforms. You're not here to help anyone." Wade's hand twitched toward his weapon. "No. Not yet. Too many questions if a civilian turned up dead." "I'll find her," he said, "with or without your help. But if you warn her, if you try to hide her, you'll regret it." The woman spat at his feet. Wade turned and walked back into the storm, pulling out his phone. She ran, the girl and the dog, heading into the forest north of the railroad tracks. Stain's voice was cold. "Then follow her." "I can't. Not alone. If anyone sees me..." "Then I'll send someone who can. Stay available, Harrison. We're not done with you yet." The line went dead. Wade stood in the falling snow, watching the tree line where a 7-year-old girl had disappeared. He'd made a choice 3 years ago. Easy money, he'd told himself. No one gets hurt. Everyone was getting hurt now. And the worst part was he couldn't stop. He was in too deep. If Stain went down, Wade went down with him. Everything he'd built, everything he'd pretended to be, would crumble. He had no choice. He had to find that girl. Elena Reyes opened her eyes. The hospital room was bright, too bright, and everything hurt. Her shoulder throbbed with every heartbeat. Her head felt like someone had driven a spike through it, but she was alive. "Hey there." Sheriff Cole sat beside her bed, his dark eyes warm with relief. "Sheriff." Her voice was raw. "Marcus. Is Marcus..." "In surgery. Critical but stable. The doctors think he's going to make it." Elena closed her eyes, tears leaking down her cheeks. "I thought we were dead. I thought..." "Tell me what happened." She forced herself to focus, to remember. "We got a call. Dispatch said there was a disturbance on Old Mill Road. When we got there, it was quiet. Too quiet. Marcus said something felt wrong. He was about to call it in when..." She swallowed hard. "They came out of nowhere. A truck, red or maybe brown old model. 2 men, maybe 3. They opened fire before we could even draw our weapons." "Did you see their faces?" "No, they wore masks. But one of them, he moved like he'd done this before. Military training, maybe. Professional." Cole leaned forward. "Elena, what happened after you went down?" The memory surfaced, hazy but persistent. "There was a girl." "Tell me." "She came out of nowhere. I thought I was hallucinating. This tiny thing couldn't have been more than 7 or 8 with a big dog beside her. She called for help on the radio. She held my hand. She told me..." Elena's voice broke. "She told me I was going to be okay. That help was coming." "What was her name?" "Lily. She said her name was Lily." Cole's expression shifted. Something urgent. "Did she say anything else, where she lived? Who her parents were?" No, she was scared. So scared. But she stayed. She stayed and helped us even though she was terrified. Elena grabbed Cole's arm with her good hand. Sheriff, you have to find her. There was something in her eyes, something broken. That child is in trouble. I could feel it. We're looking for her, I promise. No. Elena's grip tightened. You don't understand. She saved our lives, both of us, and when the sirens came, she ran. She ran like she was afraid of us. Her eyes burned into his. What kind of world makes a child afraid of the people who are supposed to protect her? Cole had no answer. In the forest, Lily ran until her lungs caught fire. She collapsed against a fallen tree, gasping Ranger pressing close against her side. The snow was still falling, covering their tracks, erasing their passage. Good. That was good. But the terror wouldn't fade. That deputy. Something about him had felt wrong. Not just his presence, not just his questions, but something deeper. Something that made Ranger bare his teeth. And Ranger had been a police dog. He knew. He remembered. What do we do, boy? Lily whispered. Where do we go? She couldn't go back to the bus. That deputy knew where she lived now. He'd come back or he'd send others. She couldn't go to the police. How could she trust any of them when one of them had just tried to grab her? She was alone. No, not alone. Ranger pressed his nose against her cheek, warm and wet. Okay, Lily said, steadying herself. Okay, we find somewhere else, somewhere safe, just for a little while, until we figure out what to do. She knew these woods. She'd spent 2 winters surviving in them, finding shelter where she could, learning which abandoned buildings were truly abandoned and which were used by people even more dangerous than the cold. There was a cabin, old, falling apart maybe a mile north, a hunter's cabin that hadn't been used in years. Come on, boy, I know a place. They moved through the trees, 2 small figures against the vast white nothing. Behind them, the world was closing in, but Lily didn't know that yet. At the hospital, Marcus Webb's eyes opened. The surgery was over. The doctors said it was a miracle. 3 bullets, and somehow none of them had hit anything immediately fatal. He'd lost blood, lost time, lost pieces of himself that he might never get back. But he was alive. A nurse noticed his eyes flutter and rushed out. Moments later, Sheriff Cole appeared at his bedside. Easy, old man, Cole said, voice thick with emotion. Don't try to talk. Marcus's lips moved. A whisper. Cole leaned closer. The girl. We're looking for her. Marcus's hand lifted weakly, grasping at Cole's sleeve. She was just a baby Nate. Just a little girl. Saved my life. I know. Find her. Marcus's grip tightened with desperate strength. Whoever did this, they won't stop. They'll come for her. She's a witness. His voice gave out exhaustion, claiming him. Cole's straightened jaw set. Marcus was right. Whoever had orchestrated this ambush wasn't going to leave witnesses. A 7-year-old girl with a dog wandering the woods alone and unprotected. She had no idea how much danger she was in. Victor Stain's warehouse was quiet, except for the hum of space heaters. He stood before a map of Pinewood Ridge, pins marking key locations. The ambush site, the hospital, the railroad tracks where Harrison had found the bus. The girl escaped. The man beside him was tall, broad-shouldered, with the flat eyes of someone who had stopped feeling things long ago. Harrison lost her in the woods. Harrison is becoming a liability. Want me to handle him? Not yet. He's still useful. His access to police systems, patrol routes, investigation updates. We need him until this is over. Stain traced a finger along the map. The girl, a homeless child, which means no one is looking for her. No parents filing reports. No school noticing her absence. Should make her easier to find. Should, but she knows these woods. She's been surviving in them clearly. That makes her unpredictable. Stain turned. I want men searching the forest. Quietly. If the police find her first, we have a problem. If we find her first... He didn't need to finish. What about the officers? They're in the hospital. Alive, unfortunately. Harrison's inside man status is compromised if they start talking. Stain's eyes narrowed. We may need to accelerate our timeline. Move the cargo early. Clear out before this gets any messier. And the girl? The girl is priority one. Find her. Tonight. Outside, the blizzard was finally dying. The clouds were breaking, letting weak winter sunlight filter through. Somewhere in those woods, a 7-year-old girl huddled in an abandoned cabin, her only protection a wounded dog and her own fierce will to survive. She didn't know that men were hunting her. She didn't know that police officers were searching for her. She only knew that she was cold and hungry and more afraid than she'd ever been in her life. But she was still alive. And as long as she was alive, she would fight. That was what Grammy Ruth had taught her. That was what Ranger had shown her. You fight until you can't fight anymore. Then you fight a little more. Lily pulled the old dog close and listened to the wind dying outside. Tomorrow everything would change. She just didn't know how much. The hunter's cabin groaned under the weight of accumulated snow. Lily hadn't slept. Every sound made her jump. Every creak of old wood sent her heart racing. Ranger lay across the doorway, positioned there deliberately, his body a barrier between her and whatever might come through. Her stomach cramped violently. 3 days without real food. The hunger had moved past pain into something else, something hollow and desperate that made her hands shake and her thoughts blur. "We need to eat, boy," she whispered. "We can't keep going like this." Ranger lifted his head eyes, meeting hers with understanding. The cabin had nothing. She'd searched every corner, every drawer, every shelf. Dust and mouse droppings and one rusted can of beans so old the label had rotted away. She'd tried to open it with a rock, cutting her palm in the process, only to find the contents had turned to black sludge. Outside, the blizzard had finally stopped. Weak sunlight filtered through the gaps in the walls. The world was quiet. Too quiet. Lily crawled to the window and peered out. Her blood froze. 2 men were moving through the trees. Not police. No uniforms. Dark jackets, careful steps. Heads swiveling like predators, scanning for prey. They were hunting. They were hunting her. Lily dropped below the window, pressing her back against the wall, hand clamped over her mouth to stop the scream building in her throat. Ranger was on his feet instantly, hackles raised a low growl vibrating in his chest. "Quiet, boy. Please, please be quiet." The footsteps grew closer. Voices carried through the thin walls. "She's got to be around here somewhere. Harrison said she ran north." "Kid's probably frozen to death by now. Waste of time." "Stain wants her found. Alive or dead doesn't matter, just needs confirmation." Lily's mind raced. The cabin had 1 door, 1 window, no back exit. She was trapped. The footsteps stopped right outside. "Check this place." Lily looked at Ranger. The old dog looked back at her, body tense, ready to fight, ready to die protecting her. No, she wouldn't let that happen. She spotted it then. A gap in the floorboards near the back corner where rot had eaten through the wood. Small. Too small for an adult, but not too small for a 7-year-old girl. She crawled toward it, fingers finding the edges of the rotted boards. They crumbled under her grip, opening a hole just wide enough. The cabin door burst open. Lily dropped through the floor. She landed hard in the crawl space beneath the cabin's snow, and frozen dirt biting into her palms. Above her, heavy boots crossed the floor. Empty. Told you she wasn't here. Check everywhere. Under the bunks. Behind the shelves. Lily held her breath. The crawl space was tight, claustrophobic, barely 2 feet of clearance. She could see glimpses of the men's boots through gaps in the floorboards. Where was Ranger? Panic seized her. She'd dropped through the floor without him. He was still up there, with them. A bark. Fierce. Protective. What the hell? Where'd this dog come from? "It's the mutt Harrison mentioned. The girl's got to be close." "Grab it." A yelp of pain. Ranger's pain. Lily almost screamed, almost gave herself away, but Grammy Ruth's voice echoed in her head. "Sometimes the bravest thing is staying quiet when everything in you wants to scream." Scuffling above. Ranger snarling, a man cursing. Forget the damn dog, it bit me. Let's check outside, she probably ran when she heard us coming. Boots crossed the floor. The door slammed. Footsteps crunched away through the snow. Silence. Then a whimper. Soft. Pained. Lily scrambled through the crawl space, finding a gap where the foundation had crumbled. She emerged into the blinding white, frantically scanning for Ranger. He was limping toward her from the cabin's front door, blood dripping from a gash on his shoulder. But his tail wagged weakly when he saw her. Ranger. She threw her arms around him, tears streaming down her face. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I shouldn't have left you. The dog licked her cheek as if to say he'd do it again. 1,000 times he'd do it again. But they couldn't stay here. The men would circle back. They'd search the perimeter. They'd find the hole in the floor, figure out what happened. Lily looked at Ranger's wounded shoulder, looked at the blood staining the snow. They were leaving a trail now. Come on, boy. We have to move. She didn't know where. She didn't know how. But staying meant dying. So they ran. At the police station, Haley Knox was putting pieces together. She'd spent all night reviewing footage logs reports. Something was wrong. Something beyond the obvious horror of 2 officers being gunned down. The dispatch call that had sent Marcus and Elena to Old Mill Road had been logged from Wade Harrison's terminal at 3:47 a.m. But the timestamp on the station's security system showed Wade's car leaving the parking lot at 3:15 a.m. He couldn't have been at his terminal at 3:47. He wasn't even in the building. Someone had used his credentials remotely, or Wade was lying about when he'd left. Either way, something stank. Haley picked up her phone and dialed Sheriff Cole. Sheriff, I found something. About Harrison. What is it? The dispatch call that rerouted Marcus and Elena. It was logged from Harrison's terminal, but security footage shows his car leaving the lot 30 minutes before the call was made. Silence on the other end. You're saying someone else used his login? Or he's got remote access. Or he came back on foot and avoided the cameras. Haley hesitated. Sheriff, I saw him in the records room the night before the ambush. Late. Acting strange. He said he was checking logs, but he looked like he'd been caught doing something he shouldn't. More silence. Then, where is Harrison now? Called in sick again, not answering his phone. Send a unit to his house. And Haley, be careful who you share this with. If Harrison is compromised, we don't know who else might be. Understood. She hung up, heart pounding. If Wade Harrison was the leak, then he knew everything about the investigation. Every move they made. Every lead they followed. Including the search for the little girl. Elena discharged herself against medical advice. The doctors argued. The nurses pleaded. But Elena Reyes hadn't become a cop by backing down from fights, and she wasn't about to start now. Her shoulder was bandaged, her arm in a sling, pain medication making the world slightly fuzzy at the edges. But she could walk, she could think, and she could not lie in that hospital bed while a child who had saved her life was out there alone, hunted. Sheriff Cole met her in the lobby. You should be resting. I'll rest when we find her. Elena. That little girl held my hand while I was bleeding out in the snow. She told me I was going to be okay. She was 7 years old and starving and probably scared out of her mind, but she stayed. Elena's voice cracked. I am not going to rest while she's in danger. Cole studied her for a long moment. Then he nodded. We found the bus, the one where she was living. Elena's heart clenched. Living. Abandoned school bus near the railroad tracks. Her mother was inside, passed out drunk. The place was... He shook his head. No child should live like that. Where's the mother now? We brought her in. She's sobering up and holding. Won't say a word about where Lily might have gone. Let me talk to her. Elena, you're in no condition. Let me talk to her. Carol Mason looked like death warmed over. She sat in the interrogation room, hands wrapped around a cup of coffee she hadn't touched, eyes fixed on the table. The alcohol was leaving her system and reality was flooding in to fill the void. Elena sat across from her. Didn't speak, just waited. Finally, Carol looked up. You're one of them, the cops she saved. Yes. She shouldn't have done that. Carol's voice was bitter. I told her, stay away from police. They'll take you away. They'll put you in a home. Is that why she ran? Because she's afraid of us. She's afraid of everyone. Carol's eyes glistened. She's been afraid her whole life. Only thing she's not afraid of is that damn dog. Elena leaned forward. Mrs. Mason, your daughter is in danger. The men who shot me and my partner, they're looking for her. She's a witness. Do you understand what that means? Carol's face went pale. They'll kill her, Elena said flatly. If they find her before we do, they will kill her. A 7-year-old child, because she had the courage to help 2 strangers. No. Carol shook her head frantically. No, she's smart. She knows how to hide. She's been hiding her whole life. She can't hide from these people. They have resources. They have someone inside this department feeding them information. Elena reached across the table, grabbed Carol's hands. Help me, please. Where would she go? Where would she feel safe? Carol was crying now, tears cutting tracks through the grime on her face. I don't know. I don't know. I'm a terrible mother. I've been a terrible mother her whole life. She's been taking care of herself since she was 5. Finding food, finding shelter. She doesn't need me. She never needed me. She needs you now. Carol broke down, completely sobs, racking her thin frame. But through the tears she whispered, There's a cabin, old hunting cabin north of the creek. She found it last winter, said it felt safe. Elena was on her feet instantly. Sheriff, I know where she is. The forest was a maze of white. Lily stumbled through the snow, Ranger limping beside her. His wound had stopped bleeding, but he was slowing down. 9 years old, bad hip, now a gash on his shoulder. He was giving everything he had, and it wasn't going to be enough. Behind them, somewhere in the trees, the men were searching. She could hear them occasionally, voices carrying on the cold air, getting closer, falling back, getting closer again. They were tracking Ranger's blood trail. Lily stopped, looked at the red drops staining the white snow behind them. She couldn't outrun them, not with Ranger leaving a trail, not with both of them exhausted and starving. She needed to think. Grammy Ruth's voice. When you can't run anymore, baby girl, you find a way to make them stop chasing. Make them stop chasing. How? Her eyes fell on Ranger's wound, the blood dripping slowly but steadily. An idea formed, desperate, maybe stupid, but it was all she had. Ranger, stay. The dog whimpered, not wanting to leave her. I know, boy. I know. But you have to trust me. Stay here. Hide. I'm going to lead them away. She found a sharp rock, gritted her teeth, and cut her own palm. The pain was bright and immediate, but she'd felt worse. She'd felt hungrier. Blood dripped from her hand onto the snow. I'm leaving my own trail now, she whispered to Ranger. They'll follow me instead of you. And when they're far enough away, you run. You find help. Find the nice lady. Elena. Find her. Ranger's eyes were too intelligent, too understanding. He knew what she was doing. He knew she was sacrificing herself for him. Go, Lily said, tears freezing on her cheeks. Please, Ranger, go. She turned and ran, leaving a trail of blood drops behind her, leading away from her wounded dog, leading the hunters toward herself. It was the bravest thing she'd ever done. It was probably the last thing she'd ever do. The men found her blood trail within minutes. Over here, fresh blood heading east. That's not dog blood. The drops are different. She's hurt. Probably cut herself on something. Let's move. They followed the trail, moving fast now, sensing their prey was close. They didn't notice the old German shepherd watching from behind a snow-covered log. They didn't see him turn and limp away in the opposite direction, heading toward the road, toward the sounds of distant sirens. They only saw the blood. Only followed the trail. Only hunted the little girl who had decided that her dog's life was worth more than her own. Lily's strength gave out at the edge of a ravine. She stood at the precipice, looking down at the frozen creek far below. The blood from her palm had slowed to a trickle. Her body was shutting down. Hypothermia, starvation, exhaustion. Behind her, footsteps crunched closer. End of the line, kid. She turned. Two men emerged from the trees, the same ones from the cabin. One had a bandage wrapped around his hand where Ranger had bitten him. Both had guns. You led us on quite a chase, the taller one said. Stain's going to be disappointed we couldn't bring you back alive. But dead works too. Lily didn't cry, didn't beg. She was too tired for fear. Why? She asked. Why did you hurt those police officers? The men exchanged glances. Because they got in the way, the shorter one said. Wrong place, wrong time. Just like you. They were just doing their job. And we were doing ours. The tall one raised his gun. Nothing personal, kid. You just saw too much. Lily closed her eyes. Grammy Ruth. Ranger. Elena, who held her hand and called her brave. She thought of all the people she would never see again. I'm sorry, Ranger, she whispered. I tried. A gunshot split the air, but Lily didn't fall. Her eyes flew open. The tall man was on the ground clutching his legs, screaming. The short one spun, raising his weapon, but another shot rang out and his gun flew from his hand. Don't move, police! Figures emerged from the trees, uniforms, weapons drawn. Sheriff Cole in the lead, his face a mask of fury, and behind him, limping but determined, was Ranger. He'd found them. He'd led them here. Lily! Elena Reyes pushed through the officers, her arms still in a sling, her face pale with pain and fear. Lily, are you okay? Lily tried to answer, tried to speak, but her body had nothing left. She collapsed into the snow. The last thing she saw before darkness claimed her was Ranger's face pressing close to hers, his warm breath on her cheek, his eyes telling her what he couldn't say. You're safe now. I found help. I saved you the way you saved me. Then everything went black. Elena caught her before she hit the ground. The child weighed nothing. Skin and bones and fierce, stubborn courage wrapped in a jacket 3 sizes too big. Her palm was sliced open, still bleeding sluggishly. Self-inflicted, Elena realized with horror. She'd cut herself to leave a trail, to lead the hunters away from her dog. 7 years old, and she'd been willing to die for the creature she loved. We need medical now. Paramedics rushed forward, blankets wrapped around Lily's tiny frame. An IV started with shaking hands. Elena didn't let go, couldn't let go. She climbed into the ambulance, still holding Lily's uninjured hand, Ranger jumping in beside her without hesitation. Ma'am, the dog can't. The dog stays. Elena's voice left no room for argument. He saved her life. He stays. The paramedic looked at Sheriff Cole. Cole nodded once. The doors closed. The ambulance screamed toward the hospital. And in the forest, the 2 wounded hunters were handcuffed and dragged through the snow, their operation crumbling around them. But they weren't talking. Not yet. At the warehouse, Victor Stain watched the police lights flickering through the distant trees. His phone buzzed. A text from Harrison. They found her, both men captured. It's over. Stain read the message twice. Then he smiled. It wasn't over. It was just beginning. He picked up his phone and made a call. Accelerate the timeline. We move the cargo tonight. And Harrison. Yes. Clean up your mess, or I'll clean it up for you. He ended the call and began packing. The girl was alive. His men were captured. The police were closing in. But Victor Stain hadn't survived 30 years in this business by panicking. He had contingencies. He always had contingencies. And before this night was over, Pinewood Ridge would learn exactly how dangerous a cornered predator could be. Lily's heart stopped twice in the ambulance. Elena watched the paramedics fight for the child's life, chest compressions, defibrillator pads that looked obscenely large on that tiny body. Ranger howled a sound of pure anguish that Elena would never forget. Come on, baby, Elena whispered, gripping Lily's cold hand. Come on, fight. The monitor flatlined, then beeped, then flatlined again. Charging. Clear. Lily's body arched. The monitor screamed its steady tone of death. Again. Clear. A beat. 2. 3. Beep. 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 We got her back. Barely. Step on it. The ambulance screamed through the streets of Pinewood Ridge. Elena never let go of Lily's hand, never stopped praying. This child had saved her life, had held her hand in the snow and told her everything would be okay. Now it was Elena's turn. At the hospital, chaos erupted the moment they arrived. Doctors swarmed. Nurses shouted orders. Lily disappeared behind swinging doors, leaving Elena standing in the corridor, blood on her hands, tears on her face. Ranger pressed against her leg, whimpering. "I know, boy," Elena said, voice breaking. "I know." Sheriff Cole arrived 20 minutes later, face grim. "How is she?" "Critical. Hypothermia. Malnutrition. Blood loss from her hand." Elena's voice was hollow. "She's 7 years old, Nate. 7. And she cut her own palm to lead those men away from her dog." Cole was silent for a long moment. "The 2 men we captured, they're not talking. Make them talk." "Elena, they tried to kill a child who saved my life. Make them talk." Cole studied her face, saw something there that hadn't existed before. Something hard, something determined. "We're working on it, but there's something else." He lowered his voice. "Harrison. He's gone." "What do you mean, gone? His house is empty, cleared out. He knew we were coming for him." Elena's blood ran cold. "He's the leak. Has been for years, looks like. We found evidence linking him to a trafficking operation. Medical equipment mostly, but there's more. Human cargo, moving people through the mountain passes." Elena felt sick. "And Marcus and you got too close to one of their shipments. They decided to eliminate you before you could investigate further." Cole's jaw tightened. "Harrison fed them your patrol route, told them exactly where you'd be. A man she'd worked beside, a man who'd eaten lunch in the same break room, a man who'd smiled at her in the hallways. He'd tried to have her murdered." "Where would he go?" "That's the problem. We don't know. But wherever he is, he's probably with the man running this operation. Someone named Stain. Then we find them both." In the warehouse district, Wade Harrison was coming apart. "This is insane," he said, pacing frantically. "The police know. They know about me. I'm finished." Victor Stain watched him with cold contempt. "You're finished when I say you're finished. I have to run. Get out of the state. Maybe the country. And go where?" Stain's voice was sharp. "You have no money, no contacts, no resources. Everything you have I gave you, and I can take it all away." Harrison stopped pacing. His face was pale slick with sweat despite the cold. "What do you want from me?" "One more job, then you can disappear." "What job?" Stain smiled. It was the smile of a predator. "The girl. She's in the hospital, alive, talking. I can't get near her. They'll have guards." "You're still a deputy, aren't you? Your credentials haven't been revoked yet. You can walk right in." Harrison's face went white. "You want me to kill a child?" "I want you to tie up loose ends. The girl saw my men. My men can identify me. If she testifies, if she leads them back to me?" Stain stepped closer, voice dropping to a whisper. "I've built this operation for 30 years. I won't let a 7-year-old girl tear it down." Harrison's hands shook. His voice cracked. I can't do this." "Then you're useless to me." Stain pulled a gun from his coat. "And I don't keep useless things." The barrel pressed against Harrison's forehead. "Choose, the girl or yourself." Harrison closed his eyes. Tears leaked down his cheeks. "I'll do it." "I knew you would." Stain lowered the gun. "You have 2 hours. Make it look like an accident, or don't come back." Harrison walked out of the warehouse on legs that didn't feel like his own. He'd made a deal with the devil years ago. Now the devil was collecting. Lily woke to warmth. Real warmth. Not the fleeting warmth of huddling with Ranger in abandoned buildings. Deep warmth surrounding her, sinking into her bones. She opened her eyes. White ceiling. Soft beeping. The smell of clean sheets and antiseptic. Hospital. She tried to sit up, but her body wouldn't cooperate. Everything hurt. Her hand was bandaged. Tubes ran from her arm to bags of clear liquid. Easy, sweetheart. Elena sat beside her bed, face exhausted, but smiling. You're safe, Elena said. You're in the hospital. You're going to be okay. Lily's eyes filled with tears. Ranger, right here. The old German shepherd lifted his head from where he lay at the foot of the bed. Someone had bandaged his shoulder. His tail wagged weakly. They let him stay, Elena said. I wouldn't let them take him away. He saved your life. He led us right to you. Lily reached out her unbandaged hand. Ranger crawled up the bed and pressed his muzzle into her palm. Good boy, she whispered. Good boy. Elena watched them, her heart breaking and mending all at once. Lily, I need to ask you some questions about the men who were chasing you. Can you tell me what they looked like? They had masks at first, when they shot you. But later in the cabin I saw their faces. Could you describe them to an artist? Lily nodded slowly. One was tall, skinny, had a scar on his chin. The other was shorter, meaner looking. He's the one Ranger bit. Good girl, that's really helpful. There was someone else. Lily's voice dropped. A policeman. He came to our bus, looking for me. Ranger didn't like him. Ranger growled at him. Elena's blood went cold. What did he look like? Brownish hair, kind of thin, pale eyes. He said his name was Harrison. The confirmation hit Elena like a physical blow. He was scary, Lily continued. He looked nice, but he felt wrong. Like when you smile at someone but your eyes aren't smiling. You're very observant. Grammy said I had to be. Said the world was full of people who smile wrong. Elena leaned forward, taking Lily's hand gently. Your Grammy sounds like a smart woman. She was the best. Lily's eyes glistened. She died 2 years ago. She was the only one who ever really took care of me. What about your mom? Lily was quiet for a long moment. Mama's sick. In her head. She drinks because it makes the sick go away for a little while, but it always comes back worse. Elena squeezed her hand. Lily, I want you to know something. What you did saving me and Marcus, that was the bravest thing I've ever seen. But you shouldn't have had to be that brave. You shouldn't have had to take care of yourself for so long. Lily looked at her with those two old eyes. Who else was going to do it? The question hung in the air, unanswerable. A knock at the door made them both jump. A nurse poked her head in. Officer Reyes. There's another officer here to see the patient. Says he's from the department. Elena frowned. Who? Deputy Harrison. Time stopped. Ranger's growl started low and built to a snarl. The same sound he'd made at the bus. The sound of recognition, of danger. Don't let him in, Elena said, rising from her chair. Do not let him in this room. But he has credentials. He's not here to help. He's here to hurt her. Lock this door and call security. Now. The nurse's face went pale. She slammed the door shut. The lock clicked. Elena pulled out her phone, dialing Cole. Harrison's here, at the hospital. He's coming for Lily. I'm 10 minutes out. Don't let him near her. I won't. She ended the call and turned to Lily. Under the bed. Now. Take Ranger. What's happening? The bad policeman is here, but I'm not going to let him hurt you. I promise. Lily scrambled off the bed, wincing at the pull of her IV. She crawled underneath Ranger, squeezing in beside her. Elena positioned herself between the bed and the door, her injured arm screaming in protest as she drew her service weapon. The door handle jiggled. Open up. Harrison's voice muffled through the door. Police business. Step away from the door, Harrison. I know what you are. Silence. Then, Elena, be reasonable. I just want to talk. You want to kill a child. I don't want any of this. His voice cracked. They're making me. If I don't, they'll kill me. Then you should have thought about that before you sold out your own people. A thud against the door. Another. "I'm sorry," Harrison said, and his voice was wet with tears. "I'm so sorry, but I don't have a choice." The door splintered. Harrison burst through, gun raised. Elena fired. The shot caught him in the shoulder, spinning him around. His weapon flew from his hand. He crashed against the wall, sliding down, leaving a smear of blood. "Stay down." Elena advanced gun trained on his center mass. "Stay down or the next one goes through your heart." Harrison looked up at her with devastated eyes. "They'll kill me anyway," he whispered. "Stain doesn't leave loose ends." "Then help us get him. Help us and maybe we can protect you." Harrison laughed, bitter and broken. "No one can protect me. No one can protect any of us." His eyes drifted to the bed, to the small shape huddled underneath. "I'm sorry, kid. I'm sorry for all of it." Security burst in, then Sheriff Cole, weapon drawn, face carved from stone. Harrison didn't resist as they cuffed him. He just kept saying, "I'm sorry," over and over until they dragged him away. Under the bed, Lily held Ranger tight and shook. Elena knelt down, reaching for her. "It's over, sweetheart. He can't hurt you now." Lily crawled out into Elena's arms. "Are there more bad people?" Elena hesitated. She couldn't lie to this child, not after everything. "There might be one more, but we're going to find him." "Promise." Elena held her tighter. "I promise." In the interrogation room, Wade Harrison finally broke. Hours of questioning, hours of silence. But when Sheriff Cole showed him the photographs of Lily in her hospital bed, tubes running from her tiny arms, Harrison crumbled. Stain, Victor Stain, he runs everything. The medical equipment theft, the trafficking, all of it. Where is he? The old warehouse district, Building 7. But he won't be there long. He's moving the cargo tonight, getting out before you can close in. What cargo? Harrison's face twisted with shame. People. There are people in those crates. Hidden compartments. He moves them through the mountain passes into Canada. Cole's stomach turned. How many? This shipment. Maybe 12. 15. I don't know. I tried not to know. You're going to testify. Against Stain. Against all of it. Harrison met his eyes. Does it matter? Does anything I do now matter? Cole leaned forward. You tried to kill a 7-year-old girl. You betrayed your badge. You helped traffic human beings. His voice was ice. Nothing you do will ever balance those scales. But you can help us stop more people from getting hurt. And maybe that's worth something. Harrison was silent for a long moment. Then he nodded. Building 7, north entrance. He keeps guards at the perimeter, but they rotate every 30 minutes. There's a window at 2 a.m. That's when the shift change happens. Cole was already moving. Get SWAT on the line. We hit them tonight. At the hospital, Lily finally slept. Real sleep. Deep sleep. For the first time and longer than she could remember. Elena sat beside her bed, watching the steady rise and fall of her chest. Ranger lay across her feet, keeping guard even in his own exhaustion. A child and a dog. Both abandoned. Both broken. Both finding in each other what the world had denied them. Elena's phone buzzed. A text from Cole. We got him. Stain in custody. 15 people rescued from shipping crates. It's over. She read it 3 times before she believed it. Over. It was really over. She looked at Lily's sleeping face, at the peace that had finally settled over those small features. You did this, Elena whispered. You saved us all. The child didn't stir, but Ranger lifted his head, his dark eyes meeting Elena's. He thumped his tail once, then laid his head back down, content. The storm had passed, and in its wake, something new was beginning. Something that looked almost like hope. 3 months later, spring came to Pinewood Ridge. The courthouse in Denver was packed. Reporters lined the halls. Camera crews jostled for position. The trial of Victor Stain had drawn national attention, a story too dramatic for fiction, A 7-year-old homeless girl and her wounded dog exposing a trafficking empire that had operated for decades. Lily sat in a small room adjacent to the courtroom wearing clothes that actually fit for the first time in years. Elena had taken her shopping, had let her pick out whatever she wanted. Lily had chosen a blue dress with small white flowers because it reminded her of Grammy Ruth's garden. Ranger lay at her feet, his shoulder fully healed, his gray muzzle resting on her new shoes. "You don't have to do this," Elena said, kneeling beside her. "The video testimony is enough." The judge said, "I want to do it." Elena studied her face. The hollow cheeks had filled out. The shadows under her eyes had faded. But something in those gray eyes remained a hardness that shouldn't exist in a child so young. "Why?" Lily thought for a moment. "Grammy said the truth matters, even when it's scary, especially when it's scary." She looked up at Elena. "Those men hurt people. They hurt you and Marcus. They wanted to hurt me. If I don't tell what I saw, they might hurt someone else." Elena's heart swelled with pride and broke with sorrow at the same time. "You're the bravest person I know, Lily Mason." "I'm not brave. I'm just tired of being scared." A court officer appeared at the door. "They're ready for her." Elena squeezed Lily's hand. "I'll be right there, the whole time, and so will Ranger." The judge had made an exception. Therapy dogs were allowed in courtrooms. Ranger wasn't technically a therapy dog, but no one had argued when Sheriff Cole explained the situation. Lily stood, straightened her dress, took a deep breath. "Okay, I'm ready." The courtroom fell silent when she entered. Victor Stain sat at the defense table, his expensive suit a stark contrast to the monster beneath. His eyes found Lily as she walked to the witness stand, and for a moment, hatred flickered across his face. Lily didn't look away. She climbed into the witness chair, Ranger settling beside her, and faced the prosecutor. "State your name for the record." "Lily Marie Mason." "How old are you, Lily?" 7. I'll be 8 in June." "Can you tell the court what happened on December 14th of last year?" Lily's hands trembled slightly. Ranger pressed closer against her leg. "I was looking for food, me and Ranger. We hadn't eaten in 3 days." She paused. "I heard gunshots. Ranger ran toward them. I followed." "What did you find?" "2 police officers. They were bleeding in the snow. I thought they were dead." "What did you do?" "I called for help. On their radio. Then I stayed with them until the ambulances came." "Why did you stay? Weren't you scared?" Lily was quiet for a long moment. "My Grammy told me once that courage isn't about not being scared. It's about being scared and doing the right thing anyway." Her voice grew stronger. "They needed help. I was the only one there. So I helped." The prosecutor nodded gently. "Lily, after you called for help, some men came looking for you. Can you tell the court about that?" "They found the cabin where I was hiding. They broke in. Ranger fought them off while I escaped." She looked down at her dog. "They hurt him, cut his shoulder, but he still protected me. And then they chased me through the forest. I couldn't outrun them with Ranger hurt, so She swallowed hard. "I cut my hand, made my own blood trail, led them away from him." Murmurs rippled through the courtroom. "You led them away from your dog, even though it meant they would catch you." "Ranger's my best friend, my only friend. I couldn't let them hurt him again." "What happened when they caught up to you?" Lily's eyes drifted to Stain. "They said they were going to kill me, because I saw too much." Her voice didn't waver. "They worked for him. They said his name, Stain." The defense attorney objected. The judge overruled. "What happened next?" "The police came. Ranger led them to me. They saved me." Lily looked at Elena sitting in the gallery. "Officer Reyes saved me, just like I saved her." The prosecutor turned to face the jury. No further questions. The defense attorney approached carefully. He knew the optics were terrible. Attacking a 7-year-old witness was legal suicide, but he had no choice. "Lily, you said you were looking for food that day, in a blizzard, alone." "Yes." "Where were your parents?" "My daddy left before I was born. My mama was sick." "Sick how?" Lily's chin lifted. She drinks to make the sadness go away. So you were alone, hungry, scared, in a storm. Is it possible you didn't see what you think you saw? I know what I saw. But you were under tremendous stress, cold, starving. Children's memories can be unreliable. I remember everything. The attorney pressed harder. You remember faces from a brief moment in a blizzard while running for your life. I remember the tall one had a scar on his chin. I remember the short one smelled like cigarettes. I remember they said Stain's name because they were arguing about whether he'd be mad they couldn't find me right away. The attorney's face tightened. You have quite a memory. I remember everything that scares me. My Grammy said that's because my brain is trying to protect me. Lily's voice hardened. Those men scared me more than anything. I'll remember their faces forever. The attorney had no response. No further questions. The prosecutor stood for redirect. Lily, one last question. The man sitting at that table, Victor Stain. Did you ever see him personally? Lily shook her head. No, I only saw the men who worked for him. Then how do you know he was responsible? Because Deputy Harrison told us. Before they arrested him, he said Stain ordered everything. The ambush, the hunt for me, all of it. Lily looked directly at the jury. And because when bad things happen, someone has to be in charge of making them happen. The men who chased me, they were scared. Scared of someone. Scared of him. She pointed at Stain. For the first time, the trafficker looked away. The verdict came 3 days later. Guilty on all counts. Conspiracy to traffic stolen medical equipment. Attempted murder of 2 police officers. Conspiracy to murder a minor. Human trafficking. Victor Stain received 52 years in federal prison. He would die there. Wade Harrison, in exchange for his testimony, received 18 years. He wept when the sentence was read, though, whether from relief or despair, no one could tell. The 2 men who had hunted Lily, identified by her testimony and Ranger's bite marks, received 25 years each. Justice, imperfect but real, had been served. Outside the courthouse, cameras flashed and reporters shouted questions. Sheriff Cole held a press conference while Elena shielded Lily from the chaos. This case was solved because of extraordinary courage, Cole told the assembled media. 2 officers who nearly died doing their duty, a department that refused to let corruption stand, and a 7-year-old girl who, when faced with impossible choices, chose to help instead of hide. A reporter called out, "Sheriff, what happens to Lily now?" Cole glanced at Elena. That's her story to tell. Elena stepped forward, Lily's hand in hers. Ranger pressed against both of them. Lily is going to be fine, Elena said. She's going to have a home, a family, a future. The words hung in the air. Later that day, in a small office at the courthouse, a different kind of proceeding took place. No cameras, no reporters, just a judge, a social worker, Elena and Lily. Lily Marie Mason, the judge said, smiling warmly. Do you understand what's happening today? Lily nodded. Elena wants to adopt me. That's right. And I need to ask you some questions to make sure this is what you want. Do you understand the... Yes, Your Honor. Do you feel safe with Officer Reyes? Yes. Do you want to live with her? Lily looked at Elena, at the woman who had held her hand in the hospital, who had stood between her and a man with a gun, who had never not once made her feel like she was a burden, more than anything. And what about Ranger? Lily's face broke into a rare smile. Ranger comes too. Elena already said. She said a family isn't complete without a dog. The judge chuckled. Officer Reyes, do you understand the responsibilities you're accepting? Elena's voice was thick with emotion. I do, Your Honor. And you're prepared to provide Lily with a stable, loving home for the rest of my life. The judge signed the papers. Then by the power vested in me by the state of Colorado, I hereby grant this adoption. Lily Mason, you are now Lily Reyes. Lily threw her arms around Elena. For the first time in 2 years, she let herself cry. Not tears of fear or pain, but tears of something she'd almost forgotten existed. Joy. Ranger's tail wagged so hard his whole body shook. 2 weeks later, Marcus Webb was released from rehabilitation. He walked with a cane now. The bullets had done permanent damage. His days of active duty were over. But when he emerged from the facility, the entire Pinewood Ridge Police Department was waiting, and at the front of the line stood a little girl in a blue dress. Marcus stopped, his weathered face crumpled. "Well, I'll be damned." Lily walked up to him slowly, looked up at his towering frame. "Hi, I'm Lily. You probably don't remember me." "Remember you?" Marcus's voice cracked. "Little girl, I remember every second. You held my partner's hand. You covered me with a blanket. You called for help when any grown man would have run." He knelt down, wincing at the pain in his healing body. "You saved my life. Ranger helped. Then I owe you both." Marcus extended his hand. "Thank you, Lily. From the bottom of my heart." Lily shook his hand solemnly. Then impulsively she hugged him. Marcus Webb, 28-year veteran of the Pinewood Ridge Police Department, holder of 3 commendations for bravery, burst into tears. He wasn't the only one. The ceremony took place on a Saturday afternoon in May. The town hall was packed. Every officer who could attend was there in full dress uniform. Townspeople filled the remaining seats, many of them strangers who had followed the story on the news. Sheriff Cole stood at the podium. "Today we honor extraordinary courage. Not the courage of trained professionals, though we have plenty of that in this room, but the courage of ordinary people who, when faced with darkness, chose to be light." He called Marcus to the stage first, presented him with the Medal of Valor, and announced his retirement with full honors. Marcus spoke briefly, his voice rough with emotion. "I spent my whole career protecting this community. I thought that's what courage looked like. But real courage is a little girl running toward danger when everything inside her is screaming to run away." He looked at Lily in the front row. "I'm not the hero of this story, she is." Elena received her commendation next, a promotion to detective effective immediately. "I don't have words," Elena said when she took the podium. 8 months ago, I was bleeding out in the snow, certain I was going to die. And then I saw a face, a child's face, and she told me I was going to be okay." She had to stop, collect herself. She was right. I'm okay. I'm more than okay. Because of her, I have a daughter now, a family, a purpose beyond the badge. She looked at Lily. "I owe you everything, sweetheart. I'll spend the rest of my life earning it." Finally, it was Lily's turn. She walked to the podium on trembling legs, Ranger beside her. The audience fell completely silent. Sheriff Cole handed her a medal, the Citizen's Medal of Courage, the first ever awarded to a child in Pinewood Ridge history. "Do you want to say anything?" he asked gently. Lily looked out at the crowd, at all those faces, strangers and friends, police officers and ordinary people. "My Grammy used to tell me stories," she said, her small voice carrying through the microphone. "About heroes. People who did brave things. I always thought heroes were big and strong and never afraid." She touched the medal pinned to her dress. "But I was afraid. I was so scared I almost ran away. The only reason I didn't was because of Ranger. He ran toward the people who needed help. He didn't even think about it. He just went." She looked down at her dog. "I followed him because I trusted him, and he trusted me." Lily looked back up. "I'm not a hero. I'm just a kid who loves her dog. But if doing something scared makes you brave, then maybe everyone can be brave. You just have to try. Even when it's hard, even when you're scared, you just have to try." She stepped back from the podium. The applause was deafening. That evening, Elena, Lily, and Ranger sat on the porch of their new home. The sun was setting over Pinewood Ridge, painting the mountains in shades of gold and rose. Spring flowers bloomed in the garden. Birds sang in the trees. "Mom," Lily said, testing the word. She'd been practicing it for weeks, never quite brave enough to say it out loud. Elena's heart stopped. "Yes, sweetheart." "Are we going to be okay?" Elena pulled her close. "We're going to be more than okay. We're going to be happy. Promise. I promise." Ranger laid his head across both their laps, his tail thumping contentedly. Somewhere in the distance, church bells rang. And in that moment, watching the sunset with her daughter and their faithful dog, Elena Reyes, understood something she'd never quite grasped before. Family wasn't about blood. It wasn't about where you came from or what you'd been through. Family was about choosing each other. Every day. In the hard moments and the easy ones. Through storms and sunshine. Lily had chosen to save two strangers in the snow. Elena had chosen to save the child who saved her. And Ranger had chosen them both long before anyone else saw their worth. That was family. That was love. That was everything. In the quiet hills of Pinewood Ridge, where mountains meet sky and winter gives way to spring, a truth endures beyond every storm. Heroes are not born from strength alone, but from small hands reaching out in darkness. From wounded hearts still brave enough to love. From ordinary souls who refuse to let fear win. Lily Mason came into this world forgotten. A homeless child with nothing but a wounded dog and a grandmother's whispered wisdom. She leaves this story with a name, a home, and a mother who would die for her. Because courage is contagious. Love multiplies. And sometimes the smallest among us carry the greatest light. This is the story of Lily and Ranger, but it is also a story about all of us. About who we become when the storm comes. About the choice we make when no one is watching. About the simple, powerful truth that Grammy Ruth knew that Elena learned that Lily lived. The measure of a person is what they do when nobody's watching. And when everybody is watching, they do it anyway.